All right, it is definitely time to panic in Golden State. We're going to be talking about that, who the best team in the NFL is, who the worst team in the NFL is, and who are some surprises early into the NBA season. So to start off, as we always do, I'm going to run over some of the major sports stories that are going on around the sporting world before I get to my three things. Starting off, we haven't spoken since the World Series, so the Washington Nationals bested the Astros in Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, Game 7, and that's actually the franchise's first World Series and Washington, D.C.'s first baseball title since 1924 when they were the Washington Senators. Soon following after, Steven Strasburg opts out of his contract and enters free agency, which will definitely be a major player in the free agent market. Switching sports and moving over to college basketball, we had a couple major powerhouses play last night, including number 2 Kentucky beating number 1 Michigan State 69-62. Number 4, Duke, with their new squad, beating Kansas, number 3, 68-66. So definitely it's a great start to another great college basketball season. Of course, a majority of coverage kind of really hits off right now and then takes a long break until March when the tournament kicks off. So anyway, moving on. One of the major sports stories over the past weekend was the BMF title for MMA between Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz, which was a great fight until it was called off by the doctor because of Nate Diaz's cut above his eye, that the gash had seemed too large, which after a couple pictures is reasonable for the doctor to call off, but knowing Nate Diaz, he can take a punch. So the fight will hopefully have a rematch. College football analysts or college football panel released the top 4 for the playoff picture, and it reads as this: number 1, Ohio State; number 2, LSU; number 3, Alabama; number 4, Penn State; and then following in at 5 and 6 is Clemson and Georgia. So as we get closer to the end of the season, we're going to obviously see this switch up a lot. Penn State is kind of a shocker to be in that conversation. I understand they've been in the top 10 a majority of the season, but for them to move into the top 4, I'm sure it's rattled some people, and we'll see what Clemson and Georgia have to say about that. So in sticking with college football, we have a major matchup between 2 and 3 this weekend with LSU and Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So that'll be a great matchup, and we'll see, if Tua's supposed to play. I'm not exactly sure if it's been fully released yet if he's going to play, but if he does, it'll be a great matchup. If not, then I expect Joe Burrow and the LSU Tigers to really take it to him in Tuscaloosa. So for my number 1 thing this week, we're going to talk about the Warriors. And I know that I just touched on the Warriors and how I said don't panic. It's just time to realize that they're not quite the team that we thought they were. Well, it's about time to panic now. After losing Steph Curry, I believe middle of last week, to a broken hand, and he is going to be out till January, February. And now their starting lineup reads as is: Kai Bowman, Jordan Poole, Glenn Robinson III, Eric Pascal, and Willie Cauley-Stein. Definitely a lot of new faces, as Draymond Green is also out. He's been in and out with injury issues. It's been interesting to kind of see the Warriors devolve after, such a great dynastic run. And I guess this really puts a lot of pressure on Steve Kerr, above all people, because this really gives Steve Kerr an opportunity to show that he is a legendary coach. As we've seen that he's been surrounded by great players, and he's even joked in the past that he doesn't really have to do anything because the players are so great that they just kind of are so selfless and would share the ball. And then when you added Kevin Durant to that formula, it was really he just could sit in his chair and not do much. So this is a great test for him as he enters this season with Klay down, Kevin Durant gone, and now Steph Curry sidelined until at least January or February. And as it sits right now, they're number 12 in the West rankings. Although we're only through 3 weeks, it is time to switch over to the panic side and, realize that it is time to panic, because with Steph Curry gone, you don't have the floor general anymore. Your main experienced offensive weapon is Draymond Green, which isn't saying very much. I mean, when I say main experienced, a lot of these young guns that are out on the court really have a lot to prove. And I know that, Jordan Poole has been promising, and Willie Cauley-Stein has obviously been in the league for some time now and has a repertoire about him. But you don't really have a team that is playoff ready at this point. Where is the offense going to come from? With a league full of dynamic duos, and their dynamic duo is sidelined for the remainder of the season, really, in Klay Thompson, in February, January for Steph Curry, Steve Kerr has to pony up and realize, okay, we have to start putting together some form of a run here, or else we're going to get too far behind, and teams are really going to get ahead of us, and we won't be able to recover. Because with how tight it's going to be, I mean, the Phoenix Suns are number 2. Put that in perspective. The Phoenix Suns are balling out right now without DeAndre Ayton. That is saying something. So we're going to switch over to the NFL. Can someone tell me what is going on with the Jets? They trade for Le'Veon Bell. I'm sorry, they don't trade. They sign Le'Veon Bell. And they have a stud young quarterback who was seeing ghosts however many weeks ago. And you sign a new coach who is getting ridiculed in the national media for apparently not knowing exactly what to do, when to do it, how to use his timeouts, what plays to call, how to better use Le'Veon Bell because he isn't getting used to his maximum potential. And the Jets now sit at 1-7. Excuse me? So I don't know what New York is exactly doing right now, but it just goes to show that although all these offseason moves were very promising and the head coach looked to be a quarterback whisperer, I guess it's just not in the Jets' cards to really be on track as of right now. I don't have much to say. Luckily, I'm not a New York Jets fan, so I sit here and kind of just chuckle like I look at the Miami Dolphins, who I kind of chuckle at as well. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about really is there's the New England Patriots fell to the Baltimore Ravens. So the 49ers are the only undefeated team left. So this has left a conversation available for a lot of analysts and a lot of insiders to speculate who is the best team in the NFL. Is it the undefeated 49ers? Well, I'd like to give my 2 cents on that. So I went to a website, teamrankings.com, and they have the strength of schedule thus far in the NFL, and I'd like to run over a couple of these teams with you. I have it written down in front of me. So New England, as I said, they lost to Baltimore, and they thus far they're 8-1, and their strength of schedule ranking thus far is number 30. So 32 being the weakest. So that really kind of puts you in perspective. But if you even take one step further, San Francisco 8-0, they're number 28 on this list. So they also have an easy schedule. And just for laughs, you have Dallas, who is 5-3, sitting at 31, and then the Miami Dolphins, who are 1-7, sitting at number 29. But what I'd really like to talk about is 2 teams that I think are the best teams in the NFL. And I'm going to start with the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints, as of now, the strength of schedule are at number 5. And they sit 7-1 with Drew Brees sidelined. Can somebody explain to me how Drew Brees is not in the game and the Saints are still 7-1? It's their defense. Their defense is a top 5 defense in the NFL. With no Drew Brees, they are 7-1 with the 5th hardest schedule so far. That is an argument you could make for the best team in the NFL. It almost makes, see, with Sean Payton, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, you have the skill players, you have the defensive line, you have 2 quarterbacks that are very well adept to making play calls or making plays or using their skill players to the maximum. And it's funny because you almost look at it and you say, okay, the quarterback position in New Orleans is almost like plug and play, because not to say Teddy Bridgewater isn't a good or great quarterback. It's more just they have such a great system built there with such great skill players and a strong defense that and obviously a great coach, a Super Bowl winning coach, that you really could put anybody at quarterback and they would perform well. Maybe not 7-1, obviously, but if you put a mediocre quarterback, they'd be 5-3, 6-2. So New Orleans is really in a great position. Kansas City, without Patrick Mahomes, the last 3 games, they're 2-1. But the kicker for me is their total defense is number 22. That's an issue for me because even when you get Patrick Mahomes back, there's teams in the league. Specifically, we just talked about the New Orleans Saints, or even the New England Patriots, who are built well enough to defend a high-powered offense like we see in Kansas City. And if Kansas City can't defend against a high-powered offense against them, they're really going to struggle. And that's the difference between really New Orleans and Kansas City. So I'm personally picking the Saints as the best team in the NFL currently, based on strength of schedule, strength of defense, skill players, coaching, and quarterback play. So for my third and final thing, I'd like to talk about some surprises that we've seen in the NBA through 3 weeks. And I'm going to start off with a good surprise being the Phoenix Suns. Now, the Phoenix Suns are sitting at 5-2. Devin Booker just dropped 40 points on the undefeated 76ers to give them their first loss of the season. And they're sitting pretty at number 2 in the West behind the Los Angeles Lakers. This is without DeAndre Ayton. This team is looking very good. I think with Devin Booker getting older and entering his true prime, then I think that's a big deal. And I think the pieces that they've put around him, along with, I know DeAndre Ayton is sidelined, but DeAndre Ayton, when he gets back, is going to be big time. And I think it'll only bolster their offense and defense. So that is my good surprise. My bad surprise, as I have said earlier, the Warriors are most likely a bad surprise, but I've already discussed in depth about their issues and what I believe is it's time to panic for them. I'm going to take a twist and say Sacramento Kings. I was legitimately surprised to hear or to see that they are 2-5. Now, there's no Marvin Bagley III. I understand that. These are the notable players on their roster. De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Harrison Barnes, Trevor Ariza backing up Harrison Barnes. Now, Marvin Bagley III is out, so you're lacking depth in the power forward position. And then center, you have Rashawn Holmes and Dwayne Dedmon. Now, Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox are 2 young studs that are going to be entering their prime, just like I said, Devin Booker. I'm surprised because last year they performed better than I expected, individually, not as a team. Now, this year I expected the pieces to come together and they do a much better job of playing with each other. They've definitely made an improvement, and I'm surprised that they're sitting at 2-5 as of right now and really struggling to kind of get the wheels turning. All right, well, that's everything I have for you all this week and really last week because I didn't get to really cover a lot of things last week. But we talked about the Warriors and how they're really struggling and it's time to panic. We talked about the NFL, whatever's going on with the Jets. Are the 49ers the best team in the league? Or is it the New Orleans Saints, which is my opinion, or the New England Patriots? And I can go on and on about who would be the best in the league. And then we finished up with some surprises in the NBA. A good surprise being the Phoenix Suns and a bad surprise being the Sacramento Kings. So stay tuned for other videos. Again, follow me on Twitter. You can find me, and I'm very active on there, always retweeting, commenting, watching sports and just giving my own 2 cents here and there. Or you can subscribe here and keep up with some of the videos. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.